Okay, so this is Dr. Rebecca Troy, and today I'm with Eric and Amanda Hesterman, our great clients, and I asked them if they would be willing to share some of the progress that they have experienced for their daughter Ava. So guys, I'm just going to kind of turn it over to you and ask if you would just kind of give me a little bit of background on like where you were before you started working with us.
Okay. I'll start and I'll just say that I'm a homeschooling mom now because she could not keep up with what was going on in the classroom. So I've been homeschooling for a little while, and I felt like it was just a better way to try to work with her, but it still has taken me an incredible amount of time to be able to teach her like fundamental reading skills. And it's been frustrating, I feel like, for both of us. And I know I learned through doing this that, it's connected to short-term memory too, because I remember trying to teach her certain sight words at the very beginning. And it's like, all right, this is a sight word, right? We're going to look through this book and this easy book, and we're going to find this word everywhere on every page. And it was like, we didn't even learn it. It like wasn't coming back. It wasn't, so it's been and she's made a lot of progress like before I found you, but it was very slow and arduous and just kind of hard. So I feel like this has really just jump-started her skills in a new way that I didn't know she had. So it's been a lot easier now.
That's awesome. So would you mind just talking about like some of the things that you see at home? Like what does it look like now?
You want to go? You can
go.
go. Okay. I was gonna say, whereas before I used to give her a book and say, let's read for like X amount of time, or, up to this part or whatever. Now it's like she'll willingly, if she's interested in what it is, will go beyond that. And I don't have to say anything. And there has definitely been more times where, it's like we're in the car and we have like a bunch of books or something like that. She'll just pick out a book and start reading it, on her own, versus like she would never really choose to do that before. So I feel like it's something she wants to do more. She's also, I sent you a writing sample the other day. I don't know if you want me to, I have it here. I can like hold it up.
Cool.
For this was like at the beginning, an assessment, and her writing was kind of all over the place. Her spelling is not, she's adding things, subtracting things. I don't know if you can see it. And it's not the same type of writing we did the other day with like sentences, but it was just neater. She could spell everything that I asked her to, and like kind of she's more being able to break apart the sounds and figure out what goes where. So that's been really cool. And what else did you want to say?
Yeah, I see a huge difference in her willingness to and desire, I think, to do both reading and listening and learning. Mm-hmm. Where before, if we would ask her to read a book or sit down and start reading something, you get maybe 45 seconds into it and she would be done. Like she just didn't do
it. It's too hard.
Didn't want to do it. And then it was the same thing when we would read to her. Like we read to her every night, and we would read to her, and she would always say, "Could you slow down?" Mm-hmm. And the retention of like what the story wasn't always there. And so, I would test it a little bit and see. I would speed up a little bit to see where she was in the thing, but she wasn't progressing there. And since doing this, not only does she pick up books on her own, but she can read for 45 minutes or an hour at a time, reading multi-chapter books, and she remembers what's going on. And then in verbal, whether it's reading or just conversation, I notice that she's retaining and repeating things that have been said to her. Her vocabulary has sort of been unlocked in a lot of ways. She's using longer words in like appropriately and pronouncing them and everything else, properly. And she's asking questions more and then like listening to the answers. And then later on, she's deconstructing things. She's processing differently. And I didn't expect that when we got started. And the handwriting, Amanda spoke about it, and I know we showed it, but the difference between the difference between this And this
Yeah.
inside of a few weeks is
Yeah, it was like
dramatic.
less than 2 months.
Yeah, because you've been going 8 weeks, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
about that.
Yep.
That's a dramatic, it's a huge change.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I see her also, the listening part of it is interesting because in relationships, like with friends and all, she's more likely to engage and spend time hanging out with people, and she's not quite as lost. Like, I feel like a lot of times,
Oh, wow.
she was kind of lost in conversations, and people would ask her if she wanted to do something, and she would just, like, it wasn't getting quite through
Oh, interesting.
what was being said. And so she's starting to engage, and even the teachers had commented. You want to speak to that?
Yeah.
Like a co-op that we do.
Cool.
They just, yeah, instead of her, like not fully, I feel like it's more an auditory thing, and I didn't know if it was like connected, but like she wouldn't fully hear something like the first time necessarily. So she'd go either, she just like wouldn't even, or she'd go, what, to like give herself some extra time. And I noticed like that's definitely decreasing. So she's able to like respond like more quickly, instead of just be like not able to like keep up with like the rapid fire like conversations. Like she's more able to, it doesn't seem as, and she even said to me, I feel like people don't speak as quickly or as fast anymore. And I was like,
Wow.
I don't think that it, nothing that's changed. So even when you were saying about the reading, we both are sort of fast readers. I never would have thought that I was. I just do it how I do it. And but every time I've read to her in the past, I don't know, month, maybe, you too, like she hasn't asked us to slow down. And it used to be like constant. So
Like every 30 seconds or so, she would ask
she'd be
us
like,
to slow
it's
down.
too
Okay.
fast.
Yeah.
So
And would you say that, like, is that one of the changes? Like, if you were to describe something that surprised you,
yeah,
would
that
that be?
definitely surprised me, because I was thinking just in terms of like reading, which was frustrating to her, and like not even so much writing, but I knew like the spelling had to do with it and whatever, but that wasn't even primary for me. I just wanted her to love reading, because our whole entire family,
Yeah.
like we're all readers, and I didn't want her to be left out, you know. And I just want her to, you know, when you can read well, you can learn whatever you want, and it's like the whole world kind of opens up for you. So I didn't want her to be like locked out of that. So
That's amazing.
that's
So,
all
I
I
mean,
was like anticipating, and the rest is like kind of cool. So
it's very cool. You guys are doing an
Yeah.
amazing job. So, I mean, what would you say if you were to think back to like why you wanted so badly to fix the problem? Would you say that it was because your family environment, or like tell me more about kind of what was your motivation to want to fix it?
I feel like, you know, maybe she was just like auditorily overwhelmed, but I knew like for me, even if I felt like overwhelmed in a like certain scenario, like growing up as a kid, like I always took like comforted books. I was always a really good reader. I feel like it's a whole new like world. And I feel like she didn't really even like have that. So it was kind of like, you know, like where, like, what am I good at? Like that, as far as like learning stuff. So she really felt like she wasn't smart, you know?
Yeah.
And I know that's not true. But since like so much of learning like hinges on being able to read well, you know, it's easy to feel like that and then just like lose self-confidence with everything.
And she,
you know?
her brother's quite advanced on the opposite side, like way ahead in school and all kinds of things. And she would do comparisons.
Mhm.
And, you know, those comparisons happen whether or not they're stated, they're still going on an ongoing basis.
Mhm.
And so the ability then to not only track with him when he's sharing things that he's learned,
Yeah.
but also then on her own come up with things and start to learn and sort of put together her own thoughts in a more cohesive manner has been a big change. It doesn't mean that every single thing is suddenly perfect with her. We certainly deal with challenges, but this has been one of the big pieces that we didn't really
like
know
for
how to.
her to not just sit down to a reading task or any learning task and be like, I can't do it, it's too hard, and like I'm not as smart as my brother.
Yeah.
Is like, I think it's like building her confidence to be like, okay, I can do this. It's not nearly as hard as it was, you know.
Yeah.
So
It's to the point where if she has a reading thing that she's doing or whatever, we can leave her with that whether it's a task or whether it's a book or whatever it is, we can leave her to do it. And whereas before it was like babysitting, and it was like pulling teeth almost. It was just this like painful process of going through.
When we started this, I had to sit right next to her. She wasn't even comfortable with me like getting up to like go wash a dish or something. Like I had to be right next to her because she was like so worried that like she wouldn't understand a word, and she'd like every other word she like just would need help with. And
yeah,
so it was a lot different.
You spoke about it, but one thing that just kind of really stood out to me was every time that she would sit down to read, she was relearning how to read.
Yes. Yeah.
Before.
So it's got to have been so arduous for her.
So it was just a cycle. She was just caught in that cycle of like attempting to repronounce, recognize what each word was. And it was like, it was hard, and it was like even simple words would be backwards, upside, like everything was, it was just, she couldn't get through it easily. Mm-hmm. And I think we would all feel frustrated.
That's right. But you're seeing it that she's able to sit now on her own, or she's starting to be more independent in that.
Definitely. Yeah. And she doesn't really, I'm always like, let me know if you have trouble with a word or something. And she very rarely asks me.
Wow.
So.
And what I think is stunning is that was 8 weeks ago. So we're not talking about like years and years of tutoring or support. She was able to make significant change in how she's functioning neurologically in 8 weeks, which I think is, the part that I really want to celebrate is just the hard work. And so is there anything that you maybe, if you're thinking, Amanda, of like things that surprised you in terms of what you had to do, or if there were any concepts or tips that maybe sounded a little bit crazy at first that that have actually come out to be quite helpful?
I feel like the whole teaching alphabet, I had never encountered that before. I just didn't need it. And it was kind of confusing for me at first, but it really made sense to her, and we're still like using that in the module that we're in, but and we're getting to, like gradually more like to a more challenging part with it, but I feel like it's like something she can like grab onto, and she really like understands like the whole concept of it. So that's been cool.
That's awesome. So if you had to think about some amazing breakthroughs or advice that you would offer to others that are in the same place, like what would you say has been the most amazing or awesome thing that you wished you would have known, maybe rewind 6 months or a year ago?
That I wish I would have known. I wish I would have known that it doesn't just stay that way. Like, kids that are having trouble with reading, I always thought, well, because I know some adults now that tell me, oh yeah, I'm dyslexic and I didn't start reading until, whatever. And like, I can't tell from like talking to them, but I'm like, man, can you imagine like just how much more difficult they're like, even to this day, because they're like compensating and they didn't like rewire that, that area. So I just feel like it's awesome that, you don't have to sit there and, use like a specific, tutoring thing for like your entire like school career, or just, be functionally dyslexic, like with the same struggles like forever, because you can totally, correct that, which is cool.
It removes a label that would define or try to confine, whether it's like somebody's own mind sort of going, this is who I am, and I have to deal with this. It removes that. And that's a huge paradigm shift. And just one other little thing that I noticed when she was doing this, she had fun with it.
Yeah.
Like she actually enjoyed like the coins and all the different things that are going on. Like I noticed, and a lot of times she's not engaged with stuff. She engaged with this, but you could speak to it more.
Yeah, like definitely there are certain times where she like didn't as much, but then I found like workarounds to her, like what times she works best at, and like the ways that I could break it up or whatever. And my attitude is certainly like but when I feel like when she realizes, like, instead of just immediately being overwhelmed, like, oh wait, I can do this and this is kind of a cool challenge, like it is fun, it's fun to do. So that's been good. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you wanted to share that we haven't talked about yet?
I don't know. What about you?
I mean, to date, I think we've covered what we've seen. It's been a huge progress. You know, I'm
Yeah.
excited to see kind of
Yeah.
where she goes with it, and
Yep.
I mean, it's
She's
even
not
her
done yet.
No,
her
I
understanding
know.
of sounds and things right now, like going through and the
Mhm.
different way that things are said.
Mhm.
She's just like, wow, this is really interesting. You know, like I'm
Mhm.
learning how to deconstruct sounds. And
Oh, I did think of something when you were
Yeah.
just talking to where she would have the auditory, like she'd go, what? A lot of times she would like get confused and think somebody said something different than what they said, like a word was slightly like different. And I haven't noticed that as much. I haven't noticed her mishearing a word.
Yeah.
And then like
Wow.
she would just laugh and be like, what do you mean? Like, da 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 da. That doesn't make any sense. Like, and we're like, that's not what we said. But I haven't lately noticed that like nearly as much. So that's interesting. It must be about like the hearing of the sounds.
Well, I cannot wait to see what happens for you guys. And I want to give all the credit in the world to you, Amanda, because you are the one who has put in the time and the work. And so, you know, through coaching, you were able to make this possible. And it's not for people that are expecting a magic pill. It really does. It requires the daily effort. It's not forever, you know, 10 to 15 minutes,
Exactly.
but it's been every day that you've been working with her, which is why you've been able to see this kind of progress in 8 weeks. And so I want to give that caveat that, you know, you wouldn't be able to do that if it weren't for your hard work. So I think you guys are doing an amazing job. I cannot wait to see what happens for Ava. But thanks for doing this today and just sharing hope and opportunity with others that may need to hear the message.
Yeah. And thank you for making this available. Really means a lot.
Yeah. It's like you're going to do the hard work forever. You're going to do it now. You know what I mean? So it's going to be hard no matter what. So you got to like pick your hard, right? Do you want like a temporary hard or hard? I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I really honor you guys for the work that you've done, and it's been a blessing to work with you. So
thank
you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.